So if they won't come, where's the dude? Here's the dude. Okay, here's the dude that has been fussing this whole time wanting to come in. I have no idea what he wants to debate. Whatever. What's up, man? You got to unmute.
Hello?
Mm-hmm.
Can you hear me?
Yep.
Hey, I guess I more have like a question than anything else because I've listened to you for a while, for several years, and I think a lot of what you say is really interesting, but I also, like, I'm seeing that some of the things that you're saying specifically about, like, gender, about, like, men and women's roles and place, it's actually, I think a lot of people don't understand that what's supposedly traditional is actually very, very modern. So a lot of these things that we think are traditional are actually just as much a part of the Enlightenment liberal paradigm as the woke stuff really is.
So you're the traditional culture preservation society guy?
I am.
Okay. But number one, I don't even talk about these topics that much. I don't care that you have some disagreement, but I don't even know what you're referring to. Like, what is the thing I said that you think is not true?
Well, there's a number of things that
Well, pick one.
I've heard. One that I could think of right offhand is that many times you've sort of, I think, given at least lip service to the red pill paradigm surrounding sexuality, right? That like sex is this thing that men want and women give. This like female gatekeeper of male desire, which is very much a modern Western perspective that really didn't exist before, oddly enough, somebody like Charles Darwin.
Well, in the ancient medieval world, people had arranged marriages, so of course that kind of structure didn't exist.
Well, I would say though that, but even beyond that, believing that that's the nature of sexuality, believing that like men are somehow like more, I guess, enslaved to their desires biologically than women. That's not what people believed back in the Middle Ages.
I don't remember saying that men are more enslaved to their desires. I don't know where you're getting that.
Well, I can try and look up the exact quote, but you definitely have on multiple occasions, and perhaps I'm misreading, misinterpreting what you were saying, but that seemed to be the gist I was getting.
So, of all the stuff that I've talked about on this channel over the last 10 years, 1,000 plus, 1,200 videos, I remember maybe touching on this topic maybe twice. And so you're hung up on this. Again, I'm very specific about when I think the red pill people have something correct. Like, I remember recently saying that the way that TradCon people treat divorce and laws is outdated. I remember saying that. So, but I don't remember saying that men are more enslaved to passions than women. I think women and men both can be enslaved to their passions in different ways.
I see. Well, I mean, if there's any.
So why don't you tell me what is the right view? So you're talking about stuff I don't remember, which maybe I said something and I was wrong. I don't know, but tell me what the right view is.
I would say that the right view is to look at what people believed, prior to the Enlightenment, prior to this very modern paradigm that was created.
Okay, which is what?
Which would be to say that there's that sexual desire is something that men and women both possess. That
of course I think that. I'll never.
But that there's women possess either equal or greater amounts of it than men, which is totally averse to what the modern Enlightenment paradigm that a lot of right wingers. A lot of like mainstream conservatives are trying to promote. A lot of red pillars try to promote this idea. It's actually really, I think, harmful and maladaptive to the functioning of our culture.
Okay, but again, you're attributing to me a position I don't recall ever taking.
Well, if you didn't take that position, then good on you, and I apologize if I mistakenly thought that you did.
What else do you take issue with?
I would say even something along the lines of, because I noticed that you just recently, actually just a few minutes ago, were saying, well, the traditional, and I suppose, I might be reading into the second part of this, but I suppose you would argue that the superior method of courtship would be arranged marriage. Is that correct?
No, I've never talked about that.
Okay. What is your position?
Where have you ever, I've never talked about this stuff, so I don't even know what you're talking about. Where did you get that I support arranged marriages?
Well, again, I admitted that was very likely that I might just be reading into.
Okay, what is your position? So,
So my position is that a lot of
No. What worldview do you come from is what I'm asking.
You mean what religious worldview?
What, I mean, maybe you're not religious. I don't know. Atheist, Catholic, what were you, pagan?
I'm coming from the position of somebody who's spiritually discerning and is very open to the possibility of orthodoxy being the truth.
And what's the background is what I'm asking.
Well, what's the background? I was raised in a Catholic background, but I've rejected that quite a few years ago.
Did you, and I'm not trying to call you out. I don't have any problems with you personally. Did you reject it because of like atheism or something, or like what direction did you go in?
Actually, I rejected it because I started listening to, first of all, I started having theological problems with the Catholic system. It wasn't working. Mm-hmm. And then I started listening to other perspectives, and actually you're one of the channels that I listen to.
Okay. How long have you been listening to me?
I discovered you in 2020.
Uh-huh. How many times have you heard me covering, quote, red pill stuff?
Not very often, but every now and then.
Right. So it's not even something that, like, I cover that much. Again, don't recall saying that. I mean, I think that men and women have different temptations when it comes to the sexual sphere. And I think that for men, the temptations are typically more visually oriented. It's more of a question of men prefer variety and this kind of stuff. I think in the case of women, they're susceptible to the same types of temptations, but what attracts them is different because they're made different. So they're attracted to high status men. They're attracted to mind games, this kind of stuff. I'm talking about the fallen temptation. So both men and women have sexual temptations. I just think that they express themselves in different ways. So that's just because they're made different. But I don't even see why that's controversial. I would think that's obvious.
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, and I guess I, to a large extent, agree with that. Not completely, because my perspective is generally that, like, sex differences are actually very inconsistent across cultures. Like, if you study anthropology, if you look at different societies around the world, you notice that a lot of what we think is like male nature and female nature is really male culture and female culture, and it differs based on the part of the world, based on the society that you're in.
You don't think it's biological?
I think that I wouldn't necessarily say I don't think that there's biological differences between men and women, but I don't think that they comport very well with what we in the West stereotype as being male and female behaviors.
Okay, so what are the male and female behaviors?
Well, again, they differ quite a bit across cultures, and it's hard to really pin down, like, if there is just a consistent maleness and a consistent femaleness in behavior, because there's so many of the rules that you might think are general rules, you can find multiple exceptions to where cultures where things are done differently.
Okay, but how would that disprove a fundamental biological tendency within men and women for men to do men things and women to do women things? How would that disprove that?
It would indicate that there's not a consistent definition of what men
No, it would just indicate that there's variations in certain areas across cultures, but it wouldn't disprove a fundamental difference. Are you an egalitarian? I still don't understand what you're arguing for.
I'm arguing for cross-cultural competence and breaking out of this idea that, like, what we in the West are raised to think is like normative human behavior is somehow like.
Okay, can you put that to specifics? Like, you think that is Mary not an emblematic of a woman, of what an ideal woman should be? Like, put this into specifics.
Specific examples. I can give you a specific example of something. I can give you another example.
You're talking in all these generalities. So what's like a hardline example? Like women should be in the workforce? Is that what's an example?
I don't believe that the modern capitalist workforce has done much good for anybody in humanity.
Okay. So give me a hard example of what you're talking about.
I would say that gender differences in personality, they don't consistently follow the lines we think that they follow in the West.
So do you believe in gender fluidity?
I don't believe that.
So you won't answer any question clearly. Right, so you're not going to answer it.
I don't believe that men can become women by feeling like.
That's not what I asked.
So I don't. I believe that there's fluidity in personality and roles, and that that a lot of people on the left right now are saying that's gender fluidity, but I don't believe in the loaded concept of like you can be a certain gender by feeling that way. That's not. If you're asking me if I'm woke, I'm not.
Okay, so are you like a classic Marxist egalitarian who's not woke?
I'm not Marxist either. Marx was a progressive.
So you won't state what any of your positions are. Why won't you just state what views you take? Like all of this talking around and ambiguity, what is it? What are your views on the role?
The view that I take is that basically Western culture has been on the wrong road for a really long time, and we need to learn from non-Western societies.
To do what? What's the answer? I've asked you this like 10 times.
To structure all of our social norms. To
do it how? To structure it how?
To structure it in almost every way imaginable. How
to structure it in every way imaginable. What does that even mean? Are you a Maoist? I don't understand.
All right, let me back up for a second. So my position has been that as bad in many ways as this modern hell state that we're moving towards is, one positive that's come out of it is that now a whole lot of learning and knowledge of other cultures has come about via the work of all these prominent cultural anthropologists. And so we now, instead of being forced to think that everything that we're doing that's maladaptive and wrong is somehow destiny, we can see, no, actually maybe this X thing doesn't work in our society, but hey, we have a model of another society that's frankly functioning better.
So what's the ideal society? What's the model society that you want to see?
A model society that I would want to see would be something that's structured more similarly to how like pre-agricultural societies might have been. More of a hunter-gatherer, or perhaps horticulturalist and pastoralist societies that have not yet made the worst mistake in the history of the human race, aka the agricultural revolution.
Okay. So, but I mean, this sounds like a very super idealist position that has no impact on reality today.
Yeah, obviously I don't think we're going to suddenly go back to being hunter-gatherers, but we need to learn from the things that the hunter-gatherers are doing that are causing them to be objectively more adaptive societies that have lasted for thousands of years, while our society is going down the can after less than 300.
Yeah, well, okay, fair points. Did you have anything in relation to the topics listed today? Protestantism, Roman Catholicism, Islam, atheism?
Well, I don't really, again, like I said, I'm on a spiritual quest. I don't really feel like it's my place to chime in. Obviously, I'm against atheism. I think it's ridiculous, but I don't really have anything specific to theology to ask about.
Okay.